everyone for joining us as people are starting to roll in here. Another webinar, Adobe Experience Platform, Architecture for Now and the Future. My name is Sammy Anderson. I'm our marketing coordinator here at Softcrylic. We're thrilled to have you. If you have any further questions about services, offerings, or just about the webinar in general, feel free to reach out to us, events@softcrylic.com. If you have questions throughout the webinar, throw it in the chat or the Q&A. Dave and Jerry will get to them as the webinar starts to wrap up. We also have a poll launched. Please make sure that you check that out throughout the webinar. And with that being said, I'm going to pass things off to Jerry to kick it off.
Thank you, Sammy. Hello, everyone. I'm very excited that we're doing this again. A couple of weeks ago, we had a webinar on AEP where we invited a bunch of my internal team at Softcrylic, and now today we're taking a completely different approach and inviting someone who I've known for quite some time. I don't know if you heard a little bit in the intro, but me and Dave, we can talk a lot about so many different things. So hopefully we don't get too carried away and we will provide some good, valuable information. But just to give a little overview or quick intro about Dave, because I've known him for some time. We both together worked at Adobe. He is still at Adobe today, doing some incredible things. Usually a lot of the unique, funky, innovative things that you see coming out. If you've ever been to Summit, there's usually a section where Dave and his team will have these cool things where part of it is kind of futuristic, but it's actually real that is enabled by some of the Adobe solutions. Dave, also, we share love for music. He's a very talented musician. He has like God knows how many guitars. We don't want to talk about that, but also has a studio in his house. He's into carpentry, super talented guy. But also, I know some about Dave where he's very much into the education. So he used to teach a class up at NYU while juggling a very busy consulting job. We're going to talk a little bit about this, but we're also going to talk about what Dave and his team has been doing in getting more clients acquainted and get to know what AEP is capable of. From an architectural perspective, there's a lot of questions around what AEP in reality delivers, and also how would companies, big and small, able to use it. So we're going to talk about a bunch of things. Any questions that you have, please send them through. We'll try to get to them. And hopefully this will be a fun, educational, but also give a good perspective on, for anyone who wants to know from an architectural POV what AEP is, we have the man here to talk to us about it. So Dave, good morning.
Morning. Thank you for the intro. You're very kind. I am a musician. I don't know if very talented. That's just Jerry.
I've seen you handle a guitar, so.
There was a time. Unfortunately, I don't get to play as much as I would like. But thank you, everybody, for joining today. So Jerry mentioned I'm Dave Bilbrough. I lead Adobe's enterprise architecture team for the experience business. So I have a team of folks who are working with Adobe customers every day to tackle how to best work with whether the experience platform or other tools, Adobe Campaign, Adobe Experience Manager, other tools. I mean, I've mostly hired folks that are former what are called multi-solution architects. So the team that Jerry and I were on together at the outset, of that team back in like 2014, give or take. A team of people who are experienced leading deliveries of multiple solutions. I've hired quite a few of our former colleagues, as Jerry knows, and our mission from Adobe is to help our customers best understand like how our solutions integrate into their larger solution stacks. All the things that they do, all the business problems that they want to solve, and as our products have gotten more complex over the last, really ever since, we've gotten a little more complex every year. Having technical pre-sales as a discipline for us as a company has really helped for our customers to better understand, well, how are these solutions going to work for my particular instance, or like, here are the Adobe things I have, here are the non-Adobe things I have, here's the technology gap that my company has. How can you help me take some combination of non-Adobe that I already own, Adobe that I already own, and new Adobe, and put that all together in a solution that solves that challenge? So that's what our team does. Back when Summit was an in-person event, we did build some really cool futuristic demos in the Adobe
I
Pavilion
remember that.
I saw. And now going forward, we're continuing to do cool, innovative things. I mean, we're working with a lot of the cutting edge customers that are doing the most fun things, and just thrilled to have the opportunity every day to work with Adobe customers. Adobe makes cool technology, and our customers do the coolest things, whether it's sports leagues or media companies or retailers, travel companies, banks. I mean, like, we work with all the coolest of the cool, in terms of great customer experiences and things like that. And one of my favorite things about my job, in addition to the technology, is just getting to like go through life and experience super cool experiences that companies have, and like recognize that like Adobe technology played a part in it. And a lot of times it was technology that I worked on personally, or that my team worked on with them, to implement that. So that's why I do what I do.
That's amazing. That is really cool. Dave, let's kick it off in diving a little bit more into the way, like, obviously I've been on engagements with you many times. I think you introduced me to some of my favorite accounts back in the day, some of my really cool clients, where you would come and tell me they have some unique problem you would really enjoy it. And then I walk in, and yes, it is very unique. It's very complex, but God, it's amazing, because the potential of it is incredible. So you have like an edge for that, or you're the guy who gets pulled into these situations where, hey, this is not your usually stand up analytics and put target on top of it and you're done, or here, let's just do an audience manager implementation. There's always a unique problem that you have to come up with a very sophisticated solution for. What are some of these problems that you have been seeing lately that you're coming in, your team is coming in when it comes to AEP? Like, what are the things that you're seeing customers are looking to AEP to solve for that is not your usual problem that was 3-4 years ago?
Sure. The big change in the last like 2 or 3 years is, more and more customers are asking us to help them provide context very quickly. And talking of like through a few use cases, if a customer is calling or if a consumer is calling one of our customers and talking on the phone in a call center, our customers want to be able to have that context right away. And the best example I can give of like that particular problem, and we're talking to customer after customer after customer about it, is actually like sort of the genesis of, like a lot of these things. We had a use case that we call the Customer Activity Hub. So this was an Adobe at Adobe story prior to, the actual GA release of AEP, where if you call Adobe to talk about your Photoshop subscription, so if you're a Creative Cloud customer or a Photoshop customer or whatever, and you want to call us and discuss, you have a question, you want to do something, the person on the other end of the phone, through the CRM screen that they're looking at, they have real-time context on a number of things based upon your behavior that we're able to collect and compute in real time. So things like, are you an attrition risk? Are you a professional user? Are you likely to leave us for product satisfaction, or are you likely to leave us because, like little things like, we've learned if a customer's credit card expires, often we never get that customer back. So like little things like being able to have like that, all that information, like, well, is this person trying to update their billing? And like being able to work with that behavioral context in real time is a challenge that our customers have come to us with, because a lot of our customers have really advanced and really effective like customer 360 views and things like that, and like an enterprise data warehouse, and they've invested an enormous amount of time and money in it, and it's got a great customer view, it's got efficient data movements and things like that. But when you look at those tools are designed to be comprehensive, they're not designed to be fast. So all of the data coming through, like from all of the different customer channels and things like that, have to get in and then be processed, and then be transformed into the right data model, and then they have to be processed as part of the customer view, and then that customer view has to make it out someplace. Most of our customers still measure that process in days, and the best ones measure it in hours. But if you think about a customer service situation, or a retargeting situation, or a abandoned cart situation, you want that information in seconds. It's like having the ability to collect and transform that behavioral data in real time, and then combine it with the appropriate metrics that are a little more static from your data warehouse. That's a problem that like we hear about like day in and day out. Like, hey, we need like a sub-second ability to consume, transform, identity stitch, segment, and then activate. And that's the problem that AEP really strives to solve. Is
I really like this. I like that the use case that you mentioned was more for service, not for just marketing or advertising. And I think this is something where I always love to see clients get into. You see in deployments, marketing will have a budget to spend on technology to advance marketing. And in a way, I mean, what you explained is, yes, they want to sell more, but this use case is the core problem is we want to know enough about the customer at the time so that we are able to service them the best. That's amazing. So what you're saying is AEP is able to give you the opportunity where you have this unified profile, but there is part of it can be static, that knowing you purchased or you had X amount of licenses, this is where you live, all this information, if it's available. But then there is real-time things about you've been on the site 3 times, you've received X amount of emails, you did not open them. That can go into a model or into a propensity of saying, based on that behavior, your likelihood of not renewing is high versus you're really seeking an offer. That's okay.
And I like to refer to that as the actionable customer view. And
yeah,
that nomenclature has made its way like through our product marketing recently, that you'll see like the actionable customer view. Because I mean, a lot of companies do a 360 view really well, and a lot of our customers have ones they built. There are other software companies that have try and lay claim to that space. And certainly the behavioral data that we capture is part of a well-rounded customer 360. But like what makes our tool unique is 2 things. I mean, the first thing is our ability to process that behavioral data very quickly and have it ingested, transformed, identity stitched, segmented, and then activated, in a fraction of a second. But then secondly, we have built a number of innovative services on top of that profile. So the ability to natively access the profile while you're doing journey orchestration, or while you're doing like customer activation to to an advertising platform, or decisioning for offers. Like those are all things that if they're elsewhere in the ecosystem are going to have to either make calls, which introduces like some level of latency, or do some other form of data transfer, whereas our tool is able to use the profile natively. And that's sort of the second thing that we've really banked on with AEP is we want to bring innovation to our customers much faster than we've been able to do in the past. And part of that is by having this profile. I mean, if you think about every marketing tool that touches customers or consumers has some concept of a customer in it. You know, it's got a profile. I mean, whether you're talking about Adobe Target, whether you're talking about Adobe Analytics, or whether you're talking about something that we don't make, you know, any sort of tool like that has a customer profile. And by creating one profile that multiple tools are able to access, like we knock down a number of data challenges, a number of latency challenges. You know, we've built our most powerful segmentation editor yet. I mean, it's able to do a lot of really interesting things. Like, I don't know how many folks on the call today have actually made a segment like in our segmentation editor, but like it's very easy.
I know if anyone has complaints about segments from analytics or from Audience Manager, please mess around with the segmentation AP, because I was so blown away. I mean, the other day, actually, we were creating a segment based on a data set that was created by the data science team that we didn't even follow like the recipe way, but we created a data set. And I was able to go into that data set and kind of like run a query and based on that build a segment. I was like, wow, we can do this now. So there's literally nothing can stop. I mean, from sequential to events to real time to static, that is pretty powerful.
And one of the things I love about it, if you look at it, it's easy to do things. I mean, you know, most segmentation editors can do, you know, has this attribute, does not have this attribute. But because of the way the experience data model works with events, you can say things like this event occurred or did not occur in the last day, or with it, you know, like things that are not easy to write SQL queries for, like we've managed to work into the tool in a manner that, you know, still executes very quickly. So, you know, we're really proud of that segmentation editor and just making it simple to use your audiences across tools and things like that. I mean, it's really a powerful, it's a powerful message. And it's not just the message of like the tools that we have today. It's the way that, you know, we're going to be introducing things at like this coming Adobe Summit, and you know, you'll see things like this year, next year, year after that. Like we're just going to keep building cool things on top of this platform every quarter going forward, and the pace of innovation. You know, one of the, you know, on the other side of our business, the Creative Cloud business, if you think about how, those of you who remember all the way back to 2011, you know, 2012, you know, we had the Creative Suite, and like once a year we would update Creative Suite. And, you know, like I remember like getting Creative Suite 2, like when I was in college, and then the next year, like Creative Suite.
CDs.
Yeah, it was like a very nicely packaged book of CD-ROMs, and then they had DVDs, you know, when they really got fancy. And, you know, it really created a number of things where it's like we had an annual calendar where stuff came out. And you know, by switching to the cloud model, you know, the Creative Cloud, we were able to, you know, sort of jumpstart the idea of CI/CD, you know, continuous integration, continuous development. And if you're a Creative Cloud user today, like, you know that like new features and new updates and things like that are just constantly coming to you. And then every now and then,
on the air,
they even drop a new tool into the Creative Cloud from time to time. And that kind of thing only used to happen around a major release. You know, similar sort of concept with the platform, not that we're like just constantly updating things without, you know, telling users or things like that, but that like we're going to be able to bring innovation faster because of the platform, similar to how we did in the you know, in the creative business. So we're really excited about that. I mean, we've already seen a lot of things. I mean, if you think about, this is a platform that's like just a hair over a year, you know, not quite a year and a half old, GA at Summit 2019. If you think about the number of services and things like that that have come out in the last year, you know, it's really, it's pretty sweet.
No, I agree. I feel that there is, as I talk to clients, there is this multiple groups, the way they look at AEP. And I wanted to talk to you about, just to see for these different groups, what is your recommendation on how to get to know more about how useful or whether they're ready or not for AEP. You have the group who has invested a lot of time in their own technologies. And we've worked with with great, you know, a lot of telecom companies, I would say, since they harvest and they have a lot of good data, they've done a lot of work into building infrastructure that can have an overlap with AEP. And then you have folks who are not, like, who's saying, well, today our data is split among multiple locations and it's siloed. And yes, AEP makes a lot of sense to us. For that first group, how are you thinking about getting them to see AEP and that real-time unified profile, like going from what they have today to bridge it into AEP? How are you approaching that? How are you getting them to see it and know that, okay, that is actually super valuable for them?
I guess like there's kind of like two questions there. Like the first one is like, how can customers learn about it? And the second one is like, how are we helping customers to better understand like how it'll work for them? And want to answer, you know, first, like to learn more about AEP. I mean, obviously the first thing to do is talk to your Adobe sales team. They'll be more than happy to discuss with you and get, you know, whether my team or one of the other teams, we have, you know, a number of different teams that do different functions and have different types of discussions with customers. You know, talk to your Adobe sales team and we can certainly help. And then also, we have completely open product documentation, and I will drop a link into the attendee chat right now for you guys to see. But like within,
and I do agree that the documentation that is coming out of Adobe, like the Adobe I/O site, and also some of the Medium articles that are written by the Adobe technology team, is amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, we're really proud of it, and not every software company has open documentation, so it really is kind of a statement, you know, that like this thing is, you know, mature, and we're really proud of how well it works, and we really are inviting everybody to read through the product docs where you can get like an absolutely crystal clear idea of not just what it does, but how it does it.
Mm-hmm.
How does it work and things like that. Adobe I/O has some fantastic, yeah, I say the word Adobe like 1,000 times a day. You would think
Do you?
Adobe, right?
Adobe. Yeah.
You know, Adobe I/O has some fantastic materials. You know, there are videos, there are overviews, there are tutorials, there are API docs, there are sample API calls. I mean, there is very little that you can't learn about AEP from Adobe.io. I dropped a link there in the panel chat. The second sort of question about like how are we helping for customers to like better understand like how it works for them. My team has a fairly detailed process where we work with the customer to understand not just the business goal they have, but what's the technology gap that's preventing them from achieving that goal. I mean, you know, Jerry, you and I used to joke around about like, you know, when people would say like, well, what's their business goal? It's like, well, it's the same as literally every other customer. They want to sell more of something, right?
Make me more money.
Yeah, exactly, right? If we ever find a customer that's not the goal, then it'll be a more meaningful question to ask. But and the question isn't really like, what's their business goal? And we know the business goal 99% of the times. They want to sell more of whatever their primary, you know, their primary thing is. But the second question is like, okay, well, what is preventing you from achieving that today? You know, like let's break down like what technology gap do you either have or in some cases not have, you know, access to something, or is there, would you like to open or build something better for, you know, some sort of process? And you know, they're inherent in the use cases that we talked through. Like we had an earlier one, you know, like when we talked about the customer activity hub use case, like that is a use case around specifically, we want to provide a lower friction experience for our customers calling the call center to reduce attrition. Okay, what's preventing us from doing that? Well, right now, every phone call starts with, you know, how can I help you today, with no context or history of what that customer has been doing in like the 15 or 20 minutes leading up to calling, you know, customer service are usually the most meaningful. You know, like that's right. The hard part of that industry is that, you know, the history on what happened yesterday and 6 months ago and a year ago, like that's helpful to an extent, but a lot of times like the most pertinent information is, well, what did that person do 10 minutes ago while they were, having some kind of trouble before they called us? Then once we understand, okay, here are the use cases that they're trying to execute, and here are the business gaps, then we're able to create a solution for them. And we're able to say, all right, solving this gap is going to be a result of, introducing this technology or implementing this technology this way or anything else. And we can make a draft architecture. We make a draft architecture, we do some validation exercises to make sure this is going to work the way that the customer wants it to work. We ask a whole lot of questions about, the size, the scope, the scale, the velocity, and everything else of the data that's coming in, and then the content. How's the content going to be managed? Then we hand that over to our friends and colleagues, either our Adobe Consulting Services colleagues or our partners like Softcrylic, for you guys. And we say, here's the draft architecture that we came up with in the pre-sales process. Here's our documentation of what their business challenges are, and here's the gap that they perceive, and then it's up to you to go build it for them. So
it's up to us to either mess it up or continue the legacy. Like it. No pressure. So okay, so you talked about the technology, and I think the question that I bet is on everyone's mind is, okay, if I can come in and I have the right paycheck or I have the right check, I can write and get this technology. That's something that's great. But what does it take from me as a client in terms of my teams, my processes? Like, how much do I need to change the way I do things to be able to use AEP, right? Like, we've seen clients, unfortunately, will buy products that just sit on the shelf because there's really, yes, there is a use case, there is a technology gap, there's really no people to run it. Even if you hire an agency, you don't have the in-house people to run it. From AEP perspective, what's your thoughts? Like, would you, if you want to give an advice to, let's say a CIO is asking you today, Dave, I want this AEP, but I want to staff a team in-house that can drive this successfully. Who should I hire?
We have different roles across like data architect, data engineer, marketer, marketing operations and things like that. And certainly everybody saw, the acquisition this week. I mean, this is a big week for Adobe, obviously, with the Workfront acquisition. That's a careful planning exercise in terms of understanding what needs to happen. And part of our process is like helping the customer to understand, exactly what's involved. And we have a number of different methods that we do that. Like on my team, we developed what looks like a college curriculum of deep dive classes, like for our customers. And we have like 100, 200, and 300 level classes. And 100 level classes are overviews, and like a lot of times, we'll have a demo and things like that, and we show like this is AEP, this is how it works and things like that. 200 level classes, we have like a practitioner focus, meaning like we're going to deep dive, we're going to do a marketer experience demo. This is a very a deeper demo that kind of shows you what does it take to build a segment, what does it take to activate something, what does it take to actually get a message out and things like that. And then the 300 level classes are, technology classes. Like that's where I say class, I shouldn't use the word class. It's really just a session. I mean, there's, we don't give.
I like classes. I love school.
I want to be careful not to confuse it with training because it's not training.
Right. It's enablement. I think it's a form of enablement that is actually, in my opinion, training sometimes is like it goes in, it goes out, right? But what you're saying is like, hey, this is catered specifically to enable you to do these things.
And we want the concept like to really be apparent to the customer as part of the overview, like even the deep dive overview sessions that we do. And like one of the ones we do, so we have the experience data model. You guys are probably familiar with it.
XDM.
XDM, and there's a deep dive session that we do on XDM to help customers understand how does data have to land in AEP in order to become part of the profile and in order to become part of the XDM data lake and in order to process and things like that. And then we have another deep dive session that we call systems architecture, meaning like here are all the services that make up AEP. Here's how the data pipeline works. Here's how the ingestion service works. Here's how the batch ingestion works. Like here's how the governance processes are applied. Like here's essentially here's the journey front to back that a piece of data goes through as it is ingested and then activated from AEP. And like those sessions are designed to help customers like start to understand, specifically like what am I going to have to do to make this work for me? What are the steps I'm going to have to take and what are the things that I'm going to have to be a part of? And that's depending on the customer. I mean, it's data engineers, it's data architects, it's developers, it's people who are building ETL and things like that. And then on the marketing side, who's building the segments, who's actually designing the activations and things like that. And then like a step further from there, like legal and compliance, like who's auditing my segments, who's auditing my, my case flows and things like that. So it's all very, it's fairly customer specific. And like we try and have discussions that surface the right questions so that the customers know what level of the infrastructure that they need exists, and then what might they have to hire. Because I mean that, the roles I just described, like they already exist at the customer, and sometimes they're just not involved in the day-to-day with marketing, but they are now, those types of discussions.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna note, is that these roles, whether from a data engineering, ETL, or marketer, these can be already existing within the organization doing similar things. And but with AEP, it's just they are now narrowing down to the use of AEP and managing that. So, which is great. But it's also, I think it's important to highlight, like AEP on its own is not going to be magic just running on its own. Yes, it will get to a point where if things are set up and processes in place and the right compliance and the right activation destinations and such, yes, it will be a very powerful machine, but it needs the people to execute on it. That's very good to know.
Awesome partners like Softcrylic.
Hey, yes, thank you for just telling us more and more. I like it. Okay, so I want to go back to a little bit. So today we're 2020. 4 or 5 years ago, 2015, I want to say 2015, it was like the boom of Adobe Marketing Cloud. It was a pivotal point because that was one of the first times that we answered a big questions that a lot of clients have, where the client said, guys, I'm doing my analytics here, I'm doing my data activation here, I'm doing my testing and optimization. I want these to work together. I want to centralize my analytics, I want to centralize my audiences, and I want to be able to activate offsite and offsite in the same place. And I think the idea of the Marketing Cloud brought these together. Then fast forward to 2020, there was this need where, but the customer is not only online. The consumer can be anywhere. There's information that might exist within Adobe, but there's information that exists outside of Adobe. We want them all in a place. We want real-time, unified, and this is AEP. This is what Adobe is building, has built, and continue to evolve. What do you project 5 years from now, like 2025? Maybe we're still in this domain. Maybe we're musicians. Maybe
obviously we'll all be in flying cars and
no, but what do you think will be the next thing that we need? I mean, because these are not futuristic stuff. Like in a way, there are things we always talked about, but technology is not always like that, So what do you think in 2025 is going to be the new thing that we're going to see happening that is going to completely change the way we're doing things today?
So if you think about like the problems we're solving today, And 2025 is hard to look that far, but like in terms of like the next, like let's say like 2-3 years is a pretty easy thing to look at. And you know, the problems we're solving today are things that were surfaced by the problems that we solved back in 2014, 2015. Like 2014, 2015, 2016, Jerry and I worked together to implement the then Marketing Cloud for a lot of customers, and now Experience Cloud. And we had industry leading solutions that you could integrate. We had some applications that we called core services that extended APIs like from individual tools and created integrations and things like that. And it was best in breed, but our customers wanted a more native integration. So like now we have AEP, kind of solves that problem. Like, okay, if getting customer data consistently like out of one tool and into another is a problem for you, we have ways that we can solve that for you. Now we have this platform. And kind of the other problem from that era that we're solving with AEP is like our customers were saying things like, we want to build, we need tools from you, not applications. And so like now we have, Experience Platform is a set of services that are all API first and can be built on top of and built into things. And we have some really cool use cases of customers that have like homegrown. I say homegrown. I mean they're impressive applications, but like they have their own decision engine that they built that they feel like part of their secret sauce of how they're able to serve their customers best is things that they built into their decision engine. And we love that. And they want to use some of our APIs from AEP to deliver data, to that decision engine. We say, great, we'd love to work with you on that. We'd love to provide data for your tool that you made and everything else. I mean, it works together really well. Now, like the problems that we're going to be solving in the next 2 or 3 years, and if you look ahead, like the big announcements, this year and the second part of last year, we had AEP. So like that helps solve the customer data, situation. I don't want to say problem because it's not like it was a problem before. We just wanted to do it better. And now with like the Workfront acquisition and AEM cloud services coming out, we are trying to make content play a bigger and faster role in experience creation. So if you notice like the experience data model, and actually I saw a question in the chat about like measuring success of campaigns and segmentations from AEP. That is part of the experience data model. So like your the what are called experience events, like whether it's a send of an email or a send of something else, or in the case of content, like usage of an asset, like that's all data that the experience data model can accommodate. And the idea is like we want to bring that data together to help streamline how content works with your marketing processes and how you do things like create segments and stuff like that. Because like the name of the game going forward is like, okay, now we have all that data in one place. We want to use AI and machine learning to make it work faster. We want to use AI and machine learning to help one marketer that could have maybe managed 5 campaigns with the way the tools worked a year or 2 ago can now manage 10, because we're streamlining the segment creation process, and the data is all collected in the same place now, and we're able to do campaign analysis and things like that, all based on the data in AEPs. I mean, like the big challenge that I see, trying to solve in the next 3 to 5 years is efficiency of scale. And that's, one of the things that I love about AEP is it uniquely positions Adobe to solve the efficiency of scale problem for our customers. Other software companies that didn't happen to also build Photoshop and InDesign, don't have the same ability to work with content that we do. And you're going to start to see where like AEM cloud service and things like that like all play a bigger role in campaign execution, so that we are able to solve some of those challenges for customers.
That's a great point. I want to think about the future a little bit more, about, we are at a time, and this is a little bit political, a little bit theoretical, but we're at a time where data is very important. Consumers are more open, or not open, more educated about the data. Clients now have more rules to work with. CCPA 2.0 just got passed. GDPR, it's probably, we're going to see more of this. My projection is that CCPA is going to become a US thing, not only California. What do you feel at some point this whole idea of identity and data and privacy, do you project that this will move away from being by the client's control or the technology control and into the end user control? And do you think that's something we might see given what's happening in 3 to 5 years, or this is like, it will be taking more time to happen?
I don't like to speculate on like how the laws are going to go and things like that. But what I will comment on is that like we have built as flexible of an identity process as possible to account for whatever the future brings. I mean, for us, whether the death of the cookie and all these things that are happening right now, privacy regulations and things like that. What that really told us was that we needed to, and again, for clarification, like we do business with nearly everybody. So everything from whether it's a healthcare company, whether it's a financial services company, or whether it's a media company, they have dramatically different requirements for privacy and dramatically different requirements for identity and things like that. And, hard to say exactly like what the consumer trend is going to be like over the next couple of years. I mean, certainly you see privacy becoming more and more of a big deal every year. Our goal has been to be as flexible as possible with how the identity service is architected so that whatever comes, our customers are going to be prepared.
Got it. So if you ask me, what do I project for AEP or for Adobe in 5 years? I would say AEP might become a subscription model like Photoshop, where I just, as a client, or maybe as an end user, I will download it on my machine, and it will be like a self-application. And yeah. I mean, is this too futuristic to say, or because I think we're gonna come the way that things are evolving, the way that data has become, there's better taxonomy, there's with XDM, there's more standardization. And if you're able to standardize all these things and put it in a place where you just need to bring in the data in, right? So in Photoshop, for example, you just need to open up a white screen and come up with the idea of what you want and start drawing. So I'm thinking about AEP is, okay, you want to bring the data that you want to create that vision or that campaign and then get that product. I would predict like in our lifetime, very soon, we will have solutions like that where it is install, click and play, and just run with it. So that velocity you're talking about becomes something where literally it's on our fingertips that we can run it.
We have customers that have built things that are not all that far from what you're describing in terms of like user management of consent and things like that. Think about, nearly every website you visit in Europe, asks for your consent to drop a cookie and your consent to do a number of other things. And, we've designed our service to be flexible to consume, that consent and then be able to manage, enforce, and observe that consent where appropriate. And, could it go that way? Maybe, it probably, probably privacy is going to continue to grow in, I mean, consumers love the idea of privacy, which, of course, you do note the irony sometimes, like, people that are like on, 9 social media services, they're like, I value my privacy,
I know. I know.
Like
We're one of them. I mean,
yeah,
it is in a way.
yeah, but I mean, but
you should see how I get grilled by my family when I tell them don't use Facebook and Instagram, and they're like, "But you're doing personalization and targeting. How about you stop doing what you're doing?" Right?
Yeah. And but I mean, all that being said, like the critical thing for Adobe is to be able to consume and work with that identity and that consent, because whatever comes, we need for our customers to know that like they're going to be able to do and build and operate with whatever the laws are. So I mean that is our future for supporting privacy is within AEP, and we have a number of impressive certifications and capabilities today, and then we are built with evolving privacy implications in mind going forward.
I agree. I think one of the impressive things within AEP is how privacy comes into play in every step, whether you're bringing the data in, you're building the segments, building access control on who can access the data. There's all these heavy regulations around it, which I think is much needed. I definitely commend that is in place in AEP. All right, so I just want to go through some of the questions, and I think you answered the first one in terms of how to measure success. I think probably the customer journey analytics product within AEP that allows you to see the full journey of a customer. You will be able to measure how well, if you're executing campaigns based on audiences that start in AEP, you're able to see that, full loop, feedback loop. Maximum size of historical data stored in AEP. My guess is this is based on, depending on how much data you want, but do you have a recommendation of how much data someone should keep in AEP, like 18 months, 2 years, or?
Depends entirely on the types of problems that you're trying to solve for. I mean, we built the platform with elastic scale in mind. So, I mean, if you have some really good reason to have more data, and my favorite kind of use case for that, Merms on from Relevant Sports, where I was trying to explain why we wanted to go as far back historically in the proof of concept that you guys did. And people were like, why do they need, data from so far back? And I was like, well, they're a sports company, they're seasonal. It's not like you buy tickets to a same sporting event like every month. I mean, the season ends and then you come back a year later for the next season. And, it's like, I need to know what happened a year ago or 2 years ago or whatever. I mean, it depends a lot on the application, but, I mean, yeah, I'm sure there is some upper bound in terms of what the maximum size is. I mean, there's, nothing is infinite, but I mean,
you don't want your query to run 30 minutes to get a query back. So
we're built with having a lot of data in the platform in mind. So I mean, like we haven't yet run into a customer where we weren't able to accommodate an enormous data set. I mean, we have customers with hundreds of millions of profiles and, some enormous, I don't even know the right word for it, gigatrillion, like some enormously high number of events coming into AEP. And, we've been impressed with the, with the performance so far. And I see your third question also about campaign management and scheduling. Scheduling, no, unless you mean activation, like you can
workflow, probably, yeah.
But I mean, in terms of like planning, like, okay, this email is going out on this day, like those are services. I mean, like we have our journey orchestration service where you can say things like, okay, upon this event happening, I want these, this email or this text message sent to the customer based on these criteria. I mean, those are things that you can do. And, again, like we did just purchase a company that specializes in scheduling and the sort of management and operations of that end of that. So, I mean,
yeah,
I'm waiting with bated breath, like everybody else, to see exactly what that means. I mean, I didn't have any inside.
You're like, ooh.
I mean, I have some idea what we're going to do with it. I mean, certainly, I've had an idea or two, but in terms of like a concrete plan for like how is AEP going to integrate with that, we're still working on that part.
No, we're also looking forward to hearing more about that.
Yep.
I'm trying to think. One thing I wanted to talk to you, and maybe we'll close it on this one because we're almost at time. We mentioned XDM. We know there's a big thing happened this year was the Web SDK. And the Web SDK, the idea is it's really exciting, a single tag that feeds into XDM. This is a big step to go from current implementation to the Web SDK. What's your thoughts about that and the importance of starting to adopt the idea of Web SDK, even if AEP is not in your near future as a platform, and you still want to continue with the other tools?
You're going to start to see XDM adoption like across Adobe tools, happening like in the next couple months. The Web SDK is a good example. Primarily, it's an AEP thing right now, but like you're going to start to see that be part of Adobe going forward, like in our DNA, kind of like, okay, experience data model, and it's going to span more than just AEP, at some point in the future. I mean, we didn't build a standard like we did with XDM to not, sort of expand the usage of it and things like that. But I mean, for right now, in terms of storing in XDM, I mean, that's primarily across like AEP and app services, and then generating it is, across a number of different things that we're able to do. But I would say keep your eye on that in terms of, like what that ends up meaning for other tools. I mean, that's certainly an area of expansion and innovation that we're looking forward to.
Excellent. Dave, I think this is a wrap. We're right on time. Thank you so much. This was super entertaining, and also a lot of good knowledge that you shared. I want to thank the people who attended. This will be up on our YouTube and also on our site. We'll send a recap. And thank you, man. I hope you enjoy your day. If it's off, if not, just hopefully you have a relaxing day today.
I'm going to do my best. Thank you, everybody, for attending. And thank you, Jerry and Sammy and everybody at Softcrylic for organizing. It was a pleasure to speak with you today.
Absolutely. We're going to have you back as soon as we get close to Summit. I'm bringing you back.
Definitely.
All right. Have a good one. Thank you.